The desert wind blew across the barren land as the sun dipped low, turning the sky into a burning sheet of gold, and John Marston wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stood facing Chief Tahoma of the Red Hawk tribe, a tribe he had once traded with, angered once, and now owed a debt so heavy that even his stubborn pride could not deny it. Months ago, John had taken supplies from them during a brutal storm, food, shelter, medicine, promising to return double when spring came. But spring brought drought, bandits, and the collapse of everything he owned, leaving him with nothing but broken promises and a debt that had grown heavier in the chief's eyes. When Chief Tahoma and his warriors rode to John's ranch that morning, John expected punishment or exile, anything but the offer that shook him to his core. "If you cannot repay the debt with goods," the chief said, his voice calm but firm, "then take her as payment." John's eyes darted to the young woman the warriors brought forward, Ayana, the chief's daughter, known for her fierce spirit and unmatched skill with healing herbs. She knelt proudly, not as a prisoner but as someone accepting her role in the tribe's decision. Her expression neither fearful nor angry, simply steady, like she had prepared for this moment. John was stunned, shaking his head immediately, because the very idea rattled everything inside him. He had never owned a person, never wished to, and the thought felt like chains wrapping around his throat. "I won't take her," he said sharply, stepping back, but Chief Tahoma held up a hand. "You misunderstand. She is not property. She is repayment and service. She will stay with you until your debt is cleared. Through her skills, she chooses this as much as we do." John's eyes flicked to Ayana again, and though the wind whipped strands of hair across her face, her gaze was unwavering, deep and strangely calm. Still John refused, his pride warring with the weight of their offer. But then everything changed. When she lifted her head fully and sunlight hit her eyes, John saw something he hadn't expected, not submission, not fear but strength, determination, and a fire that reminded him of everything he had lost, the resilience he once had, the courage he thought was gone. In that moment she wasn't payment, she was a person with a purpose, someone standing in the face of uncertainty with more dignity than he'd seen in years. His refusal wavered, because something about her presence made the world feel less heavy, like maybe this wasn't punishment but the start of something entirely different. "You would come with me willingly?" he finally asked, unsure if he even deserved the answer. Ayana nodded slowly, her voice soft but steady. "Your people are suffering. Your land is dying. I can help you rebuild if you honor the agreement." It wasn't chains that bound her, it was choice, and that choice silenced the storm inside him. John swallowed hard, looking at the tribe, then back at her, realizing that rejecting her wasn't just refusing help. It was refusing the first chance he had been given in months to fix things. He exhaled shakily. Then, "I accept, but not as repayment, only as partnership." Chief Tahoma's stern expression eased slightly, acknowledging the line John drew, a line that mattered. Ayana stood, brushing sand from her knees, and when her eyes met John's again, something silent passed between them, an understanding, a beginning neither of them expected. And as the sun sank behind the dunes, painting them in deep amber light, John felt the shift in his fate, the weight of his past lightening just enough for hope to slip in, because one look at her had changed everything, and though he didn't yet understand why, he knew this was the moment his life turned onto a new path, one he never would have chosen, yet one he could no longer imagine refusing. The journey back to John's ranch was quiet at first, the desert stretching endlessly around them as Ayana rode beside him with the calm confidence of someone who knew the land better than the wind itself. John kept stealing glances at her, trying to understand how someone so composed could willingly leave her tribe just to help a failing rancher, repay a debt he never meant to neglect. And each time their eyes met, she held his gaze without hesitation, as if she already knew more about him than he could admit. When they arrived, she took in the broken fences, wilted crops and half-empty barn, yet instead of pity, her expression sharpened with determination. "This land can live again," she said, kneeling to examine the dry soil with her fingers, her eyes scanning the horizon, like she was searching for something only she could sense. John watched, curious and strangely hopeful, as she gathered herbs, tested water from his well, checked the positions of shadows, and marked spots in the ground with small stones. She worked with quiet precision, moving like she belonged there despite stepping onto the ranch for the first time. Over the next days, her presence became the heartbeat of the land. She taught John how to redirect the scarce water, how to make medicine for his ailing horse, how to plant seeds in the places where the earth still held memory of life. And as the ranch slowly responded, something inside John began to mend too. She moved through the world with purpose, and that purpose pulled him out of the darkness he had sunk into for months. Even his workers, tired and hopeless before, found new energy under her guidance, following her instructions without question, because she spoke with quiet authority that made everyone around her want to believe. One evening, as the sky turned violet and the first stars blinked awake, Ayana stood by the corral watching the horses graze. John approached, unsure why his heart felt heavier and lighter at the same time. "You're changing this place," he said softly. She didn't look at him right away. "I'm reminding it how to breathe." Her words touched him in ways he couldn't explain. She finally turned to meet his eyes, and something inside him shifted again, something he was no longer able to deny. The line between debt and destiny blurred, and he found himself wanting not just her help, but her presence, her voice, her strength. But he feared saying anything that might make her feel trapped or obligated. Before he could speak, she stepped closer, studying him with the same depth she used to read the land. "You carry more guilt than this soil carries drought," she said quietly. "You blame yourself for things beyond your control." John exhaled, surprised she could see so deeply into him. "I lost more than land," he admitted. "I lost myself." She reached out, touching his arm lightly, her fingers warm against his skin. "Then let the rebuilding of this place rebuild you too," she whispered. It was the first moment John realized how deeply he needed her, not as repayment, but as the anchor he didn't know he had been drowning without. Days turned into weeks, and the ranch slowly began to thrive. Grass returned, animals grew stronger, and laughter echoed again in the yard. But the bond between them grew even faster, unspoken yet undeniable, built not on debt but on choice, respect, and a connection neither could ignore. One night, under a sky filled with silver stars, John finally found the courage he had been searching for since the day he first looked into her eyes in the desert. "Ayana," he whispered, "when my debt is repaid, will you stay?" She studied him for a long moment, her expression softening, a warmth blooming in her eyes that made his heart tremble. "I did not come here to serve a debt," she said. "I came because I saw a man who needed a reason to stand again." She stepped closer, so close he could feel her breath. "And now, I stay because I choose to." In that moment, John felt everything change once more, not because he owed something, but because he had found something worth holding on to, something stronger than the desert wind, something that began with a debt but grew into destiny.